When you think of Crunchyroll, you probably think of an anime streaming website, a licensor, an English dub company. You may even think of an anime convention or an anime news website. What you're probably not thinking of is a social media website. And that's what I knew it best as. Not only was it a social media website, it was the best social media website, using the best aspects of all social media, but using it to appeal to a niche audience. It was one that didn't focus on growing or expanding or getting as many users as possible, but instead it focused on being the best in its very specific niche. The OG Crunchyroll was the one-stop shop for your anime, manga, drama, and music fan. According to the Wayback Machine, I was an active user of the Crunchyroll social media from 2007 to 2011, so the entirety of my high school career. So to set the scene, it's 2007. I was an active MySpace user. I had a pink Sony Ericsson Walkman cell phone alongside my Zune MP3 player. My newest favorite K-pop girl group just debuted, Wonder Girls, and this was a lineup that included Hyuna. It was a time where I was trying my best to stay up late so I could watch Inuyasha and Full Metal Alchemist Not Brotherhood on Adult Swim. And if I wasn't on MySpace, I was watching Niga Higa skits on a new website called YouTube, until I stumbled across this brand new social media website called Crunchyroll. I don't even really remember how I found Crunchyroll. I just remembered it being such a staple to my day-to-day routine. So not only could I watch skits on Crunchyroll and funny videos that were more than likely just uploaded from YouTube or eBaum's World or even Newgrounds, but I could watch animes, but in a way that was very different than YouTube. So the OG YouTube had a 10-minute cap on all of its videos. So if you were watching an anime, it had to be in about 3 parts. However, Google just bought YouTube and was starting to do their pirating purge and get rid of all copyrighted content on YouTube, which made it even harder to use YouTube to watch anime or dramas, even if people cleverly named them. So slowly but surely, fans started to migrate over to Crunchyroll. It was a cool new website that was really similar to MySpace in overall styling and aesthetic. Now, this also happened around the mass Facebook migration, where a bunch of MySpace users were moving on to a new website called Facebook. But Facebook had a more clean, school-based social media, which meant that people that liked MySpace or like that certain level of anonymity with MySpace were kind of in limbo. MySpace more or less started to die, but that was because social media websites need users. So when people left MySpace, those communities sought new websites. And Crunchyroll was just the MySpace for anime fans. It had the same appeal of making a bunch of friends, and the only difference was all of the people who used the website liked anime. The other appeal is that it had a massive library of K-dramas, J-dramas, Taiwanese and Chinese dramas, all subbed in English. Streaming websites didn't exist, so places like Viki, Tubi, and Netflix that all carry dramas, there was nothing of the sort back then. And those websites wouldn't really start carrying dramas until the mid-2010s. Also, I don't think streaming would have done well in the earlier 2000s because people didn't really have online banking, so you would have had to use a credit card, and that concept was pretty foreign. It was uncomfortable. People didn't like entering credit card information online. Piracy was almost a default if you were a fan of these niches. Anywhere from streaming on a pirating website to just full-on torrenting. Even now in 2024, J-dramas are still so heavily gatekept and are still the centering of a lot of piracy. At the time, Crunchyroll was the easiest and most accessible way to stream. It set itself apart from other similar social medias because not only did it have videos like YouTube, it had this massive catalog of dramas and music recommendations, music videos, and overall, just never-ending recommendations from its very active community. Videos on Crunchyroll were user uploaded. Consistent animes and dramas were uploaded by admins, but anybody could upload on Crunchyroll. The upload button was right on the homepage, and it felt like such an organic and curated way to share music. For example, if I was like, oh, I really love the Gazette, I wish more people saw the Gazette, and I had a video on my computer, I would just upload it onto Crunchyroll and name it The Gazette and the name of the song, add some tags, and people who are like-minded or looking for more visual K or more J-rock would be able to find it. One of my favorite parts and fondest memories of the website is how big of an impression the music scene left on me. It had such an insane catalog of J-pop, K-pop, J-rock, from Johnny's Entertainment, Katsun, News, Arashi, to visual K icons like Duran Gray, Malice Music, The Gazette, to some of the biggest names in K-pop like DBSK, BoA, Big Bang. And because it was so fan curated, it was really easy to fall into a rabbit hole of more similar music and to build your sense of identity by finding music. When you're a young teen, I do feel that music is such an integral part of your personality and your development, and made for such a good base for friendships. And that is how Crunchyroll built their community. It offered the community that MySpace lost. It offered a similar safe space that anime conventions give. Crunchyroll had the aesthetics and music of MySpace, the accessibility of videos like YouTube, the niche fandom spaces of Tumblr, the content curation of TikTok, the community of Discord, the flash games of Newgrounds, the anime and drama catalog of Netflix, and the curiosity of Reddit. This is what I mean by it was so ahead of its time and in a league of its own. Even now, I can't think of a single social media that felt like old Crunchyroll. I remember coming home from high school and immediately hopping onto Crunchyroll to talk to my online friends about my favorite manga at the time, which was probably Vampire Knight, or to talk about my favorite dramas like Gokusen or Hanayori Dango. I would spend my time watching 2 p.m. music videos or shiny music videos. And these were all things that were outside of Crunchyroll pretty inaccessible. The homepage was pretty simple overall. At the top of the page, you'd always see the newest release episodes of Naruto, fan subbed of course. There would be dramas in the highest quality of 480p, probably fan subbed by SARS subbing, which was such an iconic and probably the best of fan sub, especially at the time. There was another tab that was dedicated to video games. So video game trailers, playthroughs, video game edit. Twitch didn't exist until 2011. So game content in general was pretty rare, but YouTube was starting to build a gaming community, such as having rage quits and let's plays. So I would say the gaming community was probably more primarily on YouTube, but they did also exist on Crunchyroll. The music tabs were always filled with newest recommendations, new music videos. And I guess the sincerity really falls in the fact that these weren't pushed by big corporations. These were just fan recommended. There's a level of authenticity to it. It was really just people genuinely sharing music that they liked, just wanting to share videos that they liked. View count truly didn't matter because it wasn't uploaded by the company. Now the profile portion of Crunchyroll. Very, very MySpace-esque. I'm gonna out myself by showing my profile. This is from 2011. You had your profile picked to your far left. Right under that, people could add you as a buddy, and they could also DM you, etc. You had a little tagline at the top. It could be anything. And for some reason, mine was sarange. It was 2011, so I was definitely into K-pop at this time. It was big K-pop era. I think this was like the era of like 2 p.m. or M Black. And, you know, I change my tagline all the time. This is just what the Wayback Machine caught me at. And then under that, you had your favorite buddies, which was their version of a MySpace top 8. You had your favorite groups, your Crunchyroll stats, which were your points, which you could gain from profile views, commenting, and playing their little flash game. Crunchyroll was overall the type of website that encouraged you for being on it and gave you a lot of reasons to be on it. And although I never used my points for anything, it was just nice having points. Then we get to your bio section. So your age, location, ethnicity, your East and West zodiac sign, and tags that could help navigate people to you. These are things that would be the foundations of the communities that you wanted to build. And then lastly, you had your guest book. This worked as the comment section, very public comment section of your page. In hindsight, I think another charm point was that nobody was famous on Crunchyroll. No one was really building a following. No one was paid to be a social media influencer. That career didn't really exist back then. It was just people uploading for the sake of uploading, posting for the sake of posting, all for the love of the drama, the show, the idol, the anime. Very authentic experience. And the only person who was famous on Crunchyroll was Shinji. Shinji was the creator. He was essentially Crunchyroll's version of Tom. He was a second-year Berkeley student at the time who described Crunchyroll as a collection of videos him and his friends have collected over the years. He created the website with the intentions of sharing videos with his friends a lot easier, and his friends had shared the website with other people, and more people started to join, and that community started to grow. It's really humbling seeing the OG Crunchyroll headquarters. It was just a dorm room, 2 massive desktops underneath a bunk bed, a website named after a sushi roll. It was a website I visited every day to watch videos, to play games, to talk to my friends, to keep up with K-pop comebacks and K-pop news. One summer in particular, I really remember avidly watching Hanakimi as it aired because they would upload it the same day. I remembered when J Park left 2 p.m. This is where I got my news. This is the community I leaned on. And oftentimes I feel that the death of social media is the introduction of corporations. Crunchyroll was founded in 2006 by some college kids. They just wanted to share videos with each other. But overall, it became a pirating website. It built a small but mighty community in those short few years. And because there was no other space for these particular niches, it grew a lot. Yes, there was YouTube, but after it got bought out by Google, all of the pirated animes and dramas on there were removed. That particular community went to Crunchyroll. So naturally, people preferred Crunchyroll over YouTube. And my disclaimer is, of course, I think that the anime industry should be paid for the content they create. The issue specifically back then is that the content was hard to obtain. In the early mid-2000s, you had to buy a VHS or a DVD that was probably 3 episodes per volume, $30 per volume. So if you're watching something like a shonen, that was not sustainable to be a fan of. And you could wait for things to finish and buy box sets. I remember people would buy box sets of particular sagas of Dragon Ball Z. So you could buy the Frieza saga, the Cell saga, but it was a very expensive hobby. And yes, there were TV options, but that wasn't something that was tangible. That wasn't something that you could own, and it wasn't something that would always be there. And the last option at the time was the Funimation network, and that was something that you could add to your cable plan, but it was also an expensive option and one that I wasn't able to talk my parents into. And anime was the most accessible out of all of the content on Crunchyroll. During that time, there was no legal way to watch J-dramas and K-dramas because streaming services didn't exist. And then it would be even more years before said streaming services would start adding international series. You could also buy box sets of dramas, but you run the risk of either A, being region locked and not playing on a American DVD player, or B, you can play it on an American DVD player, but there were no English subtitles. The other alternative for dramas were to go to an anime convention at which you have to buy a ticket for entry and hope to find that one vendor that is selling some sort of bootleg of a drama that is subbed in English. And the other option is you knew someone who could torrent, who could download the episodes and slide it to you, but those also came with soft subtitles. So if you're not someone who's well versed in torrenting and adding soft subs, this was just not a sustainable venture for you. And that was avoidable due to Crunchyroll's pirated catalog of dramas. And when it came to music, things like J-pop and K-pop were really hard to access. It would be years before JYP, YG, Starto Entertainment were on YouTube as like legal uploaders, owners of the license. Before that, they would just copyright strike things and then not upload them. And even then, it would take years before they would add their music to streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music. I remember not too long ago when JYP had no music on Spotify. And in the 2007s to 2011s, you could physically go and buy a DVD, but it would be the same venture of going to an anime convention and buying it from a physical seller, or going on eBay and buying it, and usually that was like a month long for shipping. And if you are in areas like mine, there were not K-pop shops back then. So going to an anime convention and building my J-rock and K-pop collection was something that I could do about once a year. Even now, the J-pop and J-rock industry in general is barely on streaming and haven't even really touched YouTube. But in 2009, Crunchyroll got a major investment. They got a streaming deal with TV Tokyo for Naruto Shippuden, which meant that they had to start purging all of their copyrighted content. I remember a post from Shinji basically explaining the changes and remembered how the community reacted. And Crunchyroll changed again and again and again and again. Over the years, Crunchyroll was able to get licensing deals, more and more animes added to their website, which was overall, it was a great thing for Crunchyroll, but it was a really divisive decision that was made. I remember how upset the community was. Half of them were happy for Shinji and the Crunchyroll team because they worked so hard, and it was really good seeing a by the fans for the fans type of people be rewarded with a licensing deal. But the other half of the community was upset at the removal of all of the fan uploaded content, as well as calling Crunchyroll sellouts because in their eyes, big corporation was bad. Many of them were so blindsided to what we were losing, they didn't stop to think about what we were gaining instead. And of course, I was heartbroken as well, but in hindsight, this was a good thing. I understand from a business perspective, you're hosting an illegal pirating website, your options were probably delete the entire website and risk being sued, or keep a shell of the website, purge all of the copyright content, and start getting licenses the correct way. Now, the change wasn't instant. It happened over years. First, it was removal of all of the fan uploaded content, then the music, some of the forums, the games, the groups. Eventually, they created a premium, but the website itself was still usable. You only really needed like a premium if you were wanting to watch the newest episodes or get a discount in the merch store. With the removal of all of the social media aspects of Crunchyroll, that particular community did die out. Crunchyroll is no longer a place to just hang out. It was a streaming website. You were there to watch anime and leave. By 2014, Crunchyroll fully became a streaming website and joined the streaming wars against Funimation, Netflix, and Amazon, and it garnered them more licenses, more partnerships, and more opportunities. Crunchyroll originals, partnerships with Webtoon, even same-day simuldub releases. This was the very thing that its community sought back in 2006. We've always wanted accessibility. We wanted the legal routes to be just as easy or easier to access than the pirating routes. By 2021, Crunchyroll bought out Funimation, and Funimation has been a staple in the international anime industry since 1994. Chances are if you've watched an anime and it was dubbed in English, it was from Funimation. Despite their history, they just couldn't compete. Their website wasn't the most user-friendly. It felt like that they were losing the licensing bid against Crunchyroll. And overall, when it came down to it, if you could only have a subscription to one anime streaming service, Crunchyroll or Funimation, Crunchyroll seemed to be the choice that most people made. Even now, Crunchyroll is a website that people think of when they think of where to watch anime. That being said, Crunchyroll accomplished a lot. It's quite the comeback story from being a pirated anime website run out of a dorm to the anime powerhouse that it is today with multiple offices worldwide. It's been about 10 years since the death of the old Crunchyroll, and as you can see, the website is thriving. They have rebuilt a very new but very different community. They still have the same love of anime, so much so that they even have an anime convention, an expo, if you will, and that in itself is a physical representation of the very community that it built. Earlier this year, Crunchyroll had made the decision to remove all comments from the platform. One of the series that it had got review bombed with a wave of hate, and although I understand the reasoning for shutting off comments in general, especially in this situation, I do wish that it was handled a bit differently. And I think the only reason that I'm saddened by the removal of comments was that it was the last bit of user interaction left on a website that was built off of user interaction and curation. But technically, no, you don't need comments to enjoy an anime, and it is a fully functioning, fully usable website without it. I do recognize that Crunchyroll as a social media was far from perfect, and I know that I'm especially looking at it with rose-tinted lenses, as it was a website that I used during my most formative years. I'm more so very nostalgic about the way the website made me feel. I was on there growing from a young teen to a full adult, coming into my own when it came to my interests. It gave me community, helped me navigate my identity, it introduced me to so many J-pop and K-pop idols. So although I had the death of my favorite social media website, what rose from the ashes was something that the anime community really needed, and that was accessibility. Thank you for watching. I plan on doing a lot more videos on niche early 2010s fandom and niche internet, and overall the experience of being a fan during those times. If you're interested in more content like that, you can follow me, and I plan on uploading more J-Rock content, VK content, and old J-Idol content on here as well.